Good morning, friends. Oh, this microphone is loud, and I speak really loudly, so I hope you guys are all excited to hear about some of the top themes for 2024 for Filecoin, which is the decentralized storage layer of Web3. We're just going to jump in and get started. If you're not familiar with Filecoin or what we're trying to achieve as the decentralized storage layer for Web3, this is the Filecoin master plan. Step one, build the world's largest decentralized storage network, which we have done. We actually did that in the first year after Filecoin mainnet, which was very exciting. We have thousands, I think over 3,000 storage providers globally around the world who are building on Filecoin across 40 different countries with 10 exabytes of storage capacity. Step two was to onboard and safeguard humanity's data. And we've been working on that, very focused for the past couple of years. That continues to be a key focus, bringing many, many different users and clients to store their data in Filecoin. And then step three, which kicked off last year with the launch of the Filecoin virtual machine, is to bring compute to the data stored in Filecoin to enable web-scale applications to be using decentralized storage. So just in the past year, we've seen an immense amount of growth in the client data stored on Filecoin. I think we're now at over 2 exabytes of data stored in Filecoin, which is just kind of a shocking, huge number, and serving many, many different clients, from research to education to nonprofits who are storing their dark matter research data on Filecoin. CERN's Atlas project is storing all of their neutrino data on Filecoin. And there's thousands of clients and data sets that are trusting Filecoin with their critical storage data. Also, I mentioned last year, just under a year ago, we launched the Filecoin virtual machine. This unleashes a whole ton of new capabilities for people to write smart contracts and applications that are orchestrating and programming the storage within Filecoin. This is all EVM compatible, so you can port your existing EVM smart contracts to Filecoin, upgrade them with new Filecoin storage capabilities, and start building new interesting applications that were never possible before because you couldn't offload storage into Filecoin. We've seen a whole ton of really, really cool applications being built. Lighthouse and NFT.storage have been working on perpetual and automatic storage contracts where you can program the renewal of your data storage over time. We have compute networks and Gen AI networks that are kind of monetizing data sets or computing over data sets stored in Filecoin. We have CDNs that are doing fast, efficient content retrieval from Filecoin. And we have really interesting DeFi loan markets, which have been helping bridge the gap between Filecoin token holders and Filecoin storage providers who need collateral to secure their data in the Filecoin network. And so we've seen just truly massive, unexpected growth. We're now top 20 TVL of all chains, still growing at about 50% month over month, which we're almost a year in, and we're still growing at that rate. It's really, really amazing. And you can see there's a huge community of folks who are depositing Filecoin so that storage providers can use that as collateral, and many, many, over 872 storage providers who are borrowing Filecoin so that they don't have to build up a massive Filecoin war chest before they can come and bring their capacity to the Filecoin network to store client data. So I'm pretty impressed by that. I think it's been some really amazing growth for the Filecoin ecosystem. But really, even more importantly than vanity metrics like TVL are the builders and partners who are bringing their applications and their capabilities into the Filecoin ecosystem. There's over 200 teams that are building on Filecoin across bridges, oracles, staking exchanges, and lots of really interesting data DAO or data-oriented use cases as well. Just some of the recent launches include SushiSwap and Uniswap, who have been bringing their DEXs to the Filecoin ecosystem, which kind of enables a lot of new kind of cross-chain or asset swapping applications in FVM. And again, I think that this is going to continue growing massively. One of the things that FVM and that sort of capability unlocks is powering compute over data networks, powering DePIN networks, and helping build new layer 2 networks that are building upon that FVM layer in Filecoin. So this unlocks a new phase. Previously, we had Filecoin as a storage network. With FVM, we kind of upgraded with new applications and new programmability, and now this is unlocking a new wave of layer 2 scalable applications that are building on Filecoin storage and upgrading it with new capabilities, compute capabilities, database and hot storage-oriented capabilities, retrieval capabilities, and a lot of these are building upon interplanetary consensus, which is a framework for building these planetary scale applications in Filecoin. One of those, actually, has already launched. I think a huge round of applause is deserved for Fluence, who actually announced their mainnet on Tuesday as the first Filecoin L2 building on IPC that's already live and out there, which is awesome. So if you haven't heard of interplanetary consensus, it's a scalability solution specifically designed for large-scale, infra-intensive applications. It is designed to be highly scalable and hierarchically scalable. So instead of, everything's going to be an L2, and that's as far as we get as an ecosystem. This is designed for recursive scalability and for subnets that are highly tunable. They can be application-specific. They can have their own specialized built-in actors. They can have their own consensus algorithms, and they can shard progressively depending on their application-specific needs. So that might be having a gaming subnet that then has subnets within it for different games. That could be having geographical region subnets where only nodes within a certain region are able to join that subnet, thereby enabling you to have really fast block times because nodes are much closer together and able to interoperate more quickly. And you can also have things like deeper infrastructure services. One of the reasons we're coming to interplanetary consensus as a critical tool is that we've been working in this infrastructure-rich DePIN network space for years and years and years now. Filecoin's been live for 3.5 years as kind of the first large-scale DePIN network out there. And so IPC is really designed and optimized for helping those networks come and scale very quickly and reach the sort of massive scale that infrastructure networks need as they're growing. I mentioned that subnets are very, very customizable. This is thanks to the kind of structure of the FVM as a hypervisor. I mentioned FVM is EVM compatible. That's because we literally have the EVM running inside FVM's hypervisor as the first runtime. But you can add additional runtimes over time. Aqua VM is the one that's used by Fluence, and so you can bring in additional runtimes as desired within different subnets. You can deploy your own custom WASM actors. FVM is all WASM-based under the hood, and so you can have specialized WASM functions that you deploy within a specific subnet. You can bring your own runtime. You can bring your own native coin or token, and it all has kind of your own configurable consensus layer within that as well. So it's designed to be very configurable, but it's also designed to make your life easy so you can get up and running quickly. This is really tuned for kind of large-scale service networks. These are things like compute networks, like Fluence, that are already getting onboarded and then can interoperate smoothly with Filecoin's network of thousands of storage provider nodes, also running compute nodes right next to that existing storage so that they can run compute jobs over the storage in Filecoin, output the result of their compute jobs into Filecoin storage and interop smoothly there, but also things like hot storage layers, CDNs, indexing engines, retrievability networks, and more. So I really do want to celebrate the fact that we already have the Fluence mainnet that's building on top of IPC and building as a Filecoin L2. And I want to seed something for anyone else out here in the audience who might be working on, prototyping their IPC network or coming to Filecoin as an L2. The Fluence team, I think, took a great step forward from kind of a public goods perspective, committing 5% of their token supply to funding public goods as a retro PGF for developers who have been participating and contributing to things like Filecoin and IPC and other building blocks. You can go and check this out. You have to have public SSH keys on your GitHub profile in order to claim as a nudge. So not everyone, if you don't have that configured yet, then you're not yet eligible for this airdrop. But I think it's a really great standard that we should be applying across all crypto ecosystems, and especially for Filecoin, across all Filecoin L2s, to set the standard that these networks are also contributing and giving back to the immense community of developers, ecosystem builders, tooling providers, infra providers that operate in this ecosystem. This really should be the standard for all networks. So as we bring more and more DePIN networks to Filecoin, more and more compute networks to Filecoin. I think we should be, in general, creating this strong community and giving back mindset that kind of helps tie these many, many ecosystems together, because many of them do get to share the capabilities and new unlocks that they're bringing into this ecosystem. All right, so that was theme number 1. Filecoin L2s powering compute over data and DePIN networks. Theme number 2 is Filecoin as the storage layer for Web3 in particular. So this is, looking at the data layer of blockchain architecture. We already have libp2p, which is pretty standardized as your networking layer that's used by Polygon and Ethereum and Polkadot and Filecoin and every other blockchain network. But really helping rebase all of Web3 so that we're not having centralized AWS archives of all of our blockchain data, and we're instead utilizing decentralized storage networks for that. As you might have seen earlier in the presentation, we've already seen massive adoption from kind of Web 2 archival and research use cases, storing their massive, very large-scale data sets on Filecoin. CERN is, I think, the largest data generator on the planet. It's generating something like exabytes of data per year. It's pretty cool. We're now talking about making sure that the tooling and the ease of use in Filecoin isn't just tuned for very, very large data archives, but is really tuned for Web3 developers and Web3 chain archival solutions, so that the Web3 ecosystem can be efficiently relying on Filecoin as its decentralized storage layer. I think there's a great example of this just from the past year. The Triton team, Triton 1, worked very closely with the Filecoin chain store team to onboard and store all of the Solana chain state on Filecoin. There was this big frustration where whenever they had new nodes bootstrapping into the Solana ecosystem, or they're experiencing some chain instability and they needed to reload their chain from Genesis, cost every node provider thousands of dollars to refetch all of the chain history from Infura, RPC APIs, so that they could reload their nodes and validate their state from Genesis. And so there's an awesome collaboration here to load all of the Solana chain archival state onto Filecoin. They structured it as an IPLD graph so you can retrieve subsets of that block data over time. And as you can see, was really well received as a great step forward and exemplar for the entire Web3 ecosystem, because this can now power and be a public good for entire blockchain communities for things like, powering RPC APIs or enabling indexing solutions or enabling dApps that just want to, onboard, index, and operate over top of historical chain state. So awesome to see the reception of that. So we have a couple of chains that have already been onboarded in terms of their blockchain state and history. We have a couple of collabs work in progress with folks. Been chatting with folks here, Avail, Near, Say. And then we have some folks that I have on my wish list as next up for who we plan to work with to bring their chain state to Filecoin. If you're excited to get yourself added to this next up list, we'd be happy to collaborate with you. We kind of have a 3-step process right now of pulling all chain state and storing it in Filecoin, then doing a deeper dive IPLDification, a structuring of your chain data state to make it highly accessible and indexable, and then kind of the ongoing hook from like Web3 ecosystem to ongoing every block by block, bring that into Filecoin. So we've talked about Web3 chain state, but what about the large-scale data that isn't stored in the chain state itself, but is highly interconnected and interoperating? And I think a great example of that is the larger-scale DePIN data that is being created and referenced on-chain, but isn't actually stored in chain state directly. And so the collaboration between Textile Basin and WeatherXM is a great exemplar there, where they have all of this large-scale weather data that's been being created, and Textile Basin work to index that, onboard it on Filecoin, and is working on scaling that solution as a more decentralized layer 2 style operation, where you can just have kind of ongoing DePIN data storage on Filecoin, which helps make WeatherXM and these other DePIN networks more robust and resilient, and also lowers their costs for keeping all of this large-scale weather data around and accessible for their community to build on and power their explorers and applications. So if you haven't heard of Textile Basin yet, there was a really great event yesterday called Proof of Data Summit, where I think Marla gave a pretty good talk about decentralized object storage. This is a really exciting kind of new innovation. If you know about Tableland, which is also from the Textile team, it's a kind of like S3 database indexing solution for things like mutable NFTs. This is taking those same lessons of the kind of like bucket model and S3 API model and bringing that to Filecoin archival solutions for DePIN networks. And so this team has a ton of experience in the space, and I would really recommend, if you are a DePIN network out there, get in touch with the Textile team. They are actively looking for early users that they can co-design the right APIs and the most efficient solution with. We also have some really exciting work happening on the kind of storage aggregator L2 space. So these are groups who are actually utilizing the same building blocks of IPC that are powering Filecoin L2 compute networks and other networks to offer hot, fast storage aggregation and caching for networks. So there's a great team that's currently called W3S, or the Decentralized Web3 Storage Team, that's combining the ease of use developer APIs that many people have used in Web3.storage with the L2 content caching network of Filecoin Saturn to create a hot, fast data storage, object storage layer for smart contract developers or builders who want just like really simple, smooth, easy to use hot storage APIs to Filecoin. And it's utilizing all this same IPC technology to get up and started. A number of groups, if you are a smart contract builder and you want something that works and works well today, Lighthouse has a lot of great storage contracts that are already up and running. They have proof of data inclusion in Filecoin deals. They have a lot of great like programmable access controls and a lot of repair workers that allow you to do that configurable. I want this stored in with this many different storage providers in these different regions, and I want it repaired over time. And they're also leaning into that, okay, how do we utilize technologies like IPC to help bring that as a hot storage layer for Filecoin. And if you don't want to worry about any of that and you want more of the custom partnership, I just want to partner with an amazing group to help me get onboarded. Banyan just opened their open beta a couple of weeks ago, and they'll do kind of a more custom deep dive onboarding partnership with different groups and have a pretty slick UI for storing data in Filecoin. So high level point, there's a lot of really amazing hot storage solutions focused on Web3 as an ecosystem that are growing and improving themselves in the Filecoin ecosystem right now. And if you're excited about using them, come talk to me and I will route you to the best one for you. Excited to make those connections. All right, so I'm almost out of time, but can't leave you before also highlighting some of the amazing economic growth of the Filecoin ecosystem as well. We'd mentioned how DeFi was scaling, but also we have some really exciting work around new paid inbound activity in the Filecoin ecosystem, where we have more applications, more users, like all of these Web3 chains, paying for their Filecoin storage at scale. So that's more export of value into the Filecoin economy. We also have a chunk of work right now on reducing OpEx for groups like Filecoin storage providers. And then DeFi is helping scale the number of internal businesses in the Filecoin economy. And that's pretty awesome to see, because this is helping grow and scale all of the kind of internal ecosystem applications and use cases within Filecoin. To highlight the three that I was mentioning here, there's a lot of work right now landing in the next network upgrade that have improvements specifically for storage providers in Filecoin, but there's a couple others that generally kind of reduce OpEx costs for those participating in Filecoin, helping us devote more of our time and energy to growing our applications directly. We have a number of paid users coming to Filecoin. I think the D-Store onboarding flywheel just closed their first petabyte enterprise paid storage deal. I think it was something, at least $5 to $8 per terabyte per month for a hot storage copy and an archival copy, which is pretty awesome. And we have better and better retrieval metrics being used as well, so that users who want to expect hot, fast retrievals from Filecoin can have a good reputation system for figuring out who to work with in the ecosystem. And then I'd mentioned we have a number of DEXs that are now live, and the DeFi ecosystem in Filecoin is just kind of booming in response to that. Another enabling factor we have coming up in Q2 is what we're calling fast finality for Filecoin, or F3, which enables fast block times. I think it's single block time finality within the Filecoin ecosystem, which enables much faster cross-chain bridging, much faster user interaction and interoperability with DeFi protocols. You can get much faster confirmation times. You can do much smoother interop between Filecoin and other ecosystems. So that's going to be pretty exciting, both for, say, hot FVM use cases that are pulling storage from other networks, or for kind of more financial and DeFi-oriented applications. Awesome. Well, that's my highlight of the things that are happening in Filecoin land. Excited to work with everyone here to make Filecoin better together. And if any of you want to stick around a little bit longer, you can come to the Filecoin booth, which is literally just right there, for a great AMA with Juan Benet, the creator of Filecoin, I think starting at 11:45, so in like less than 10 minutes. So I'm happy to take a couple of questions if folks have them, and then happy to chat with folks as we walk the 10 meters to the booth together. So thank you guys so much. Anyone have any questions? If so, if you could come to the microphone, that would be slightly easier so that the recording can hear you.
Hello. So a lot has happened in the last 10 years with Protocol Labs and Filecoin. I'm wondering, it could be personal or professional, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of the amazing builders in the Filecoin ecosystem. There's just a really phenomenal community of all of the groups that are building tooling, hot storage layers, protocol improvements. It's just a pretty special community. Everyone is very collaborative and friendly, and innovating, like building really, we have like a number of L2 networks that are all kind of going to market in the next 6 months. And those are folks who started from hackathons during the ETH Global HackFest back in summer of 2020 when everyone was in COVID lockdown. This group of builders was getting together, started to hack on Filecoin even before Filecoin mainnet launch had happened. So think really, really rough APIs. Half of the things didn't work very well yet. And this group got started. We now have applications like Huddle01 that got started in that hackathon. We have Lighthouse, which I think got started either that year or the HackFest the year after that. And so there's just an amazing builder community, and that's, I think, what I'm most proud of, and what keeps me alive and thriving and happy in this ecosystem is getting to collaborate with all of those amazing folks. So if you are not yet in the Filecoin ecosystem and want to join the ranks of some really phenomenal humans, come talk to me, because that's also a thing that I work on kind of at the core protocol dev layer, is helping more folks get onboarded, involved, and making improvements to Filecoin to power their use case or their application. So that's what makes me happiest. Any other questions? If not, I will descend into the ranks and we can wander over to the booth together. But thank you all so much. Appreciate it.